luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Stefan Kyriazis has, as always, been in theatres. He's here to tell us of his experiences. Hello, Stefan, or should I say, hello, Dolly.
Well, hello, Michael.
Well, hello.
You're looking swell, Michael. I can tell, Michael. You're still glowing, you're crowing, and you're going strong. So I have been to see Hello, Dolly at the Palladium. It's on there until September.
Seems like you've enjoyed it.
It is absolutely pure joy. I think we've even got a little bit of footage just to get people in the mood of the curtain call, but it is just sublime joy, headlined by Imelda Staunton. Let's see if we've got a little clip for everybody to look at.
It was a great show, was it?
It's
a feel-good show?
Absolute bliss. So 1964 musical, music and lyrics by Jerry Herman. 1969 famous Barbra Streisand film. But it's been played by Carol Channing, Ethel Merman, Bette Midler, all these people, Danny LaRue. So the joy of this show, it's so traditional, but you have an old woman leading the show, and then Irene Malloy, who's another slightly younger widow in New York, the hat maker. Orchestration's gorgeous, masked voice is gorgeous. Big train, kind of cut-out train, fills the stage. They all climb on board. It builds towards the end. You get the big Hello, Dolly number, and the whole she did there. Wow, 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 fellas. Look at the old girl now. Staunton is 68, I think. She's 5 foot nothing. The audience kept applauding through the show. She stood there. There was a moment. We all felt such joy.
The People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, you're with GB News. In a moment, headliners, but first let's bring you the latest news headlines. And police have condemned the disorder which broke out in Southport this evening on Merseyside, where earlier a vigil was held to remember the 3 little girls killed in a multiple knife attack. Merseyside police have now issued a dispersal order giving officers the power to stop and search for weapons. It comes after a police van was set on fire and items were thrown at officers, with one officer suffering a suspected broken nose. Merseyside police say the riot began when a group of people, believed to be supporters of the English Defence League, according to police, threw items at a mosque, adding that 6 arrests have been made. Assistant Chief Constable Alex Goss has called the scenes sickening for a community already devastated. The dispersal order will remain in force until 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Well, earlier on today, the Prime Minister paid tribute to the victims of the knife attack. He faced hostile shouts from the crowd, however, as he laid a wreath and stood in silence, with some people shouting, "How many more?" The Prime Minister says it's now his mission to crack down on knife crime.
I am very worried about high levels of knife crime, and I'm absolutely determined that my government will get to grips with it. But today is not the time for politics. Today is the time to focus entirely on the families who are going through such pain and grief, and on the wider community, and of course a time to say thank you to those that responded yesterday.
The Prime Minister, well, the Home Secretary tonight described the violence in Southport as appalling, and she said that she released a statement warning those people responsible that they will face the full force of the law. Here's what she had to say.
So appalling to now see those same police facing violent attacks from thugs on the streets who have no respect for a grieving community. It's a total disgrace. Frankly, this is a time when everyone should be showing respect for a community and for the police.
Yvette Cooper. Well, tonight's disruption broke out less than a couple of hours after the Southport community came together to mark a minute's silence for the 3 little girls who died. They were named by Merseyside Police today as Elsie Dot Stankham, Alice Aguar and Bebe King, who are 9, 7 and 6 years old. 5 other children and 2 adults remain in a critical condition after what was described as a ferocious attack on a dance class. It was a Taylor Swift-themed dance workshop at the start of the school's summer holidays. The pop star herself paid tribute to the dead children, saying she is in shock at the loss of life and horrendous trauma, adding they were just little kids. Now, news away from Southport tonight. A serial shoplifter who committed what was described as near Olympian-scale fraud has been jailed for 10 years. Narinder Kaur travelled all over the country to carry out what the judge described as a tsunami of dishonesty against top high street retailers. She stole around £500,000 worth of items. Gloucester Crown Court hearing the 54-year-old stole from Boots, Debenhams, John Lewis and TK Maxx more than 1,000 times. And finally, Great Britain have taken gold in the pool tonight, putting us 7th in the medal table. The British quartet of James Guy, Tom Dean, Matthew Richards, Duncan Scott led from the start and powered to the top of the podium. The US coming in 2nd, Australia stealing a bronze. It marks the 3rd time in a row Britain has won a medal in the 4x200 metre relay after winning first in Rio, then Tokyo and now in Paris. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. Time now for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. We've got Wednesday's newspapers upon which to play our game. Joining me tonight we have 2 Olympic comedy talents, gold medalist Cressida Wetton and with suspiciously high testosterone for a female, Steve N. Allen. Have you been tested lately?
Well, not for that, but other things. Yeah.
Got all the signs, the male balding pattern as well. To be honest, I'm amazed you think you can get away with it. Anyway, congratulations. What was your gold medal in?
Oh, what was my gold medal?
You're going to have to improvise now.
I am going to have to improvise. Something with a ribbon. I think that would be
I was
nice.
going to say, I love those, the floor exercises.
Do you?
And the one where they throw that ball up in the air and catch it. It's more like circus, isn't it, than gymnastics?
Yes.
I'm all for that. I like all the ones where it's a completely artistic and subjective score.
Yes, well, I would
I'm really
prefer
bored
that.
where it's like our gold medal swimming hope was in a finish in which all 3 were within 0.02 of a second of each other.
You're getting down to that.
It's kind of pointless, isn't it,
Yeah.
at that point? It might as well, if he'd grown his nails out, he'd have won. Anyway, Daily Mail kick us off. Oh, very sad news, of course. Most of the front pages this evening, the faces of the innocent little Taylor Swift fans killed in cold blood by a despicable human being. Very little argument from me there. The Guardian, you can't help but cry. Hundreds paid tribute to stabbing victims. Telegraph, violence erupts over child killings. The iNews, no words can describe our devastation. The Metro, our little innocents. And finally, the Daily Star, attack of the bloodthirsty Dracula flies. Those were your front pages. So, Cressida, the Daily Mail, along with the rest, really reflect the sadness of the country.
Exactly. Faces of the innocent little Taylor Swift fans killed in cold blood by a despicable human being. It says it all, doesn't it? I mean, this is absolutely horrific. 3 little girls killed at a dance class, Taylor Swift-themed, at the beginning of the school holidays, 9, 7 and 6, and they've lost their lives because this despicable human being, we don't know who it is yet, broke into the dance class and stabbed her.
We have no information so far, no indication of any kind of motive or mental state or anything of this guy, and obviously it's allowing a certain amount of speculation to flare up.
Yeah, I mean, in these situations, I think it's allowable to think mental state can't be right.
No.
Do you know what I mean? That's a safe guess, isn't it? For someone to be that wrong in their head to do this. It's about the innocence. I look at this front page, and obviously we knew the ages of the children involved. When you see the pictures, it reminds you what we're talking about is someone that innocent should not have to be we shouldn't even have a society where we need to protect.
No,
like
parents shouldn't have had to worry. Nobody should have had to worry at all. It is indeed completely unthinkable. Taylor Swift herself, in fact, has issued a statement. I have to say, I found it quite moving. She judged it very well, but what a horrific thing for her to consider. Very little else to say on that story, really, except, obviously, our condolences and sympathies and so on. Steve, what other stories on the Telegraph?
We can go to the Telegraph's headline, "No room to build on Greenbelt?" That's nonsense, says Rayner. This is the first of a series of stories where newspapers are spotting that the Labour Party are doing what they promised they'd do, and the newspapers are going, what?
Yeah.
This was promised in all the debates in the manifesto. And the use of Greenbelt, maybe we'll come to that in a bit, but Angela Rayner has said that the new targets have been set, and if these targets aren't met by building on brown sites, then you'd have to look at what areas have been defined as Greenbelt, and the uglier ones, as having no useful eco components, could then be built on. It's quite a long... It's a way down that flowchart, but the headlines are putting it right at the top, Greenbelt. And it shouldn't even be called Greenbelt, should it? That was this notional idea of managing to keep urban areas from spreading.
Yes.
Doesn't mean it's green, and yet the word evokes this kind of, what, you're building on a pasture?
Well, it was an attempt to... Yes, you're right, urban sprawl, to say that there was a limit to London.
Yep.
Which I suppose was long before the M25 was just a twinkle in Clement Attlee's eye or whoever it was. Has that changed the shape of that urban planning aspect anyway, do you think? I always feel it has, to some extent. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's not going to become Tokyo now, is it, London?
Yeah. Oh, so you mean... Well, I don't know. I mean, areas like Dartford are now being included in the oyster zone, and I think that's like step one of the ingress of London, even though parts of Dartford's just on the inside of it, isn't it? But the next thing, you know...
I remember this was 20 or 30 years ago, maybe even 40 years ago. God, it's terrifying. I have a feeling when I'm picturing the bedroom I was in when I heard this on the radio. But I think the single best investment that BP, British Petroleum, ever made was buying some random fields in the green belt that then they managed to get planning permission on, and it was like and
we all remember where we were.
Yes,
when we heard
exactly.
About that
but I just remember
decision.
it was quite interesting, just because it was like BP are pretty good at investing and things, you know, but there's usually a geologist involved. This was just some fields, and they went, they look quite nice, don't they? Should we have those? They were probably going to have put the marquee up and have the managing directors, you know, 50th wedding anniversary or something.
And now you can literally say it was all fields around here.
Yeah, yeah.
And it actually was.
Well, I mean, that is true. My parents live in the country. Probably most of us know people, villages and small towns in the countryside that have expanded in the last few years. I mean, a lot of country in Norfolk, a lot of small towns have doubled in size, often quite ugly, you know, additions. I don't see why London should get away with it. I mean, I do kind of think that. You know what I mean? Like home counties, green belt.
But
well, why
this
not?
isn't just about London, is it?
No.
This is nationwide, and they're saying that if the local authorities don't do it, there are going to be hard interventions from central government. I mean, how's that going to work? Having central government turning up and saying, we think you should build on that field.
But this is what they said. They promised they'd crack the NIMBY thing, and now the NIMBYs are going, what? Hang on, my backyard?
Well, the NIMBY... Well,
NIMBYs.
NIMBY is... I don't know. NIMBY is quite a loaded term. I think people are right to be defensive about nice neighbourhoods. It's not about not wanting any building to go ahead. It's about wanting it to be sympathetic architecturally and to also sort of have some kind of integration with the existing town, isn't it? That kind of stuff.
No, they just don't like it.
No, some people don't like it. But the truth is, most new build stuff is cheap and tacky and mass-produced. I mean, I've said for a long time, if just spend a bit more and just go, we're going to rebuild Bath, but in the middle of Northumberland or something. Do you know what I mean?
Andrew Bridgen's been big on this, hasn't he?
It's so easy. There are so many lovely towns of all sizes, Can
I just say, I live in a new town and my neighbours are complaining about new areas being built in it. Like, what did you expect? This is where they do this stuff.
Which one are you in?
St Evanage.
Oh, OK.
Old Town.
Stevenage,
I mean, I used to live in normal Stevenage, but now I'm Old Town. I've been on telly.
I have a cousin in Stevenage, St Evanage. I like that there. Which is funny, because I grew up in St Albans and we used to call it Snalbans. Finally, Steve, something a little bit lighter in the start.
Well, you say that. Attack of the bloodthirsty Dracula flies. In need of that scream, don't it? These are the horse flies. I've noticed they are around. There's quite a lot of them. They do seem dopey. It's an easy fight. Man versus fly, we often lose because of their reflexes. So I'm less worried because I can swat a...
Do you have a swatter in your pocket?
I just use the fist. I use the Bruce Lee punch.
It gets so addictive. You ever stay in a holiday home or something and there's loads of flies and you can just spend the entire holiday just swatting.
Good to have a hobby.
Usually means there's a horse nearby funnily enough.
I haven't noticed. I'm aware of them. I mean, I'm from the countryside. I remember them. But
horseflies give you a nasty bite.
Yeah,
you don't
not
want
nice. Horrible.
They do want us to do the other story in The Guardian, Cressida, sorry.
Excellent. OK, so their main story is about Southport, but they've also got Badenoch traumatised and bullied senior staff. So Kemi's being outed as a bully. We do hear these stories quite a lot, don't we, about various people. The front runners...
To be honest, at this point, if you're not bullying your staff, you know, who even are you?
Well, it does seem to be, if you want to be in politics, it's for the tough, thick-skinned type. And, of course, we've seen her roasting Angela Rayner. I was enormously impressed with that performance.
I mean, obviously, I believe all bullying victims or whatever, but I don't know. I think if you go into politics, you expect people to shout at you if things aren't delivered on time occasionally. We've watched the thick of it. We know what it's like. Everyone's a little bit stressed out.
Yeah, if you can't do your job without shouting, though, rein in the anger.
Oh, shut up.
No.
Did they shout? That's a great question.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. It's time for a break. Those are the front pages dealt with. Coming up, we have passions boiling over in Southport and pensioners are next. See you in a couple of minutes.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
You're making me think. You were here last week talking about The Merry Widow at Glyndebourne, which I went to see last night. And it was much the same thing. I mean, musically, it doesn't rate, to me, much higher than a musical. But the professionalism of the delivery, the joy of the cast, therefore the joy of the audience, the absolute charisma of Daniel Denise singing and dancing in the main role, absolutely superb. So just to recollect that.
Yeah, and
by the way, how long does Hello, Dolly?
That's on until September the 14th. And I would say there's been some bumpy, like My Fair Lady, sort of traditional musicals have sort of wobbled quite a bit recently, even The King and I a bit. This one nails everything. I cannot recommend it highly enough. I came out humming and beaming for the rest of the night. Now, the second one is The Baker's Wife, complete opposite. Small show at the Meunier Chocolate Factory, and again we've got bootleg illegal footage of me, I think, just to give, because you need to see the setting of this place. It's completely incredible what they've done in a small space. Hopefully we've got a little bit of my illegal video again. It's set up like a 1930s Provence village square. You can see the cafe there at one end. At the other end is the bread shop, the bakery. The walls are all painted like brick. There's shutters everywhere, posters. People pop out of shutters that you don't even know how they are. We're sat either side. And it's a Stephen Schwartz musical. So he's the guy behind Wicked, Pippin, things like that. But it's still kind of joyous and fun until the marquis of the village, who has 3 nieces, comes along with his manservant who sweeps her away. And then for me, I didn't like how the story turns. I don't think it works anymore in a modern day.
The People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm still Simon Evans, and I've still got a bunch of newspapers to get through. We've still got Cressida Wetton and Stephen Allen to help me do it. Cressida, starting with Wednesday's Mail, and the peace and tranquility of the new Labour administration is having teething problems, I have to say.
It certainly is. Anti-Muslim mob chanting "English till I die," riot and burn police van outside mosque in Southport, near where 3 girls were killed in knife attack. Police issue warning following sickening scenes as incorrect info about attacker spreads online.
There's a clip they want to share, I believe.
Very similar.
Sorry, they couldn't hear me there. I was just saying, sort of reminiscent of the scenes we saw in Leeds recently.
Very similar, yeah. And police obviously coming away with, there's reports of a police person with a broken nose.
Yeah.
The Merseyside police are urging people not to speculate on the details of the incident, but obviously people are just at boiling point because it's horrific. They're very upsetting deaths and ongoing injuries and so on and so on. And so that's it, isn't it? It's boiling point. People feeling very aggrieved about this. But a lot of this article is about restraining those people. That's the...
Yeah. You see, I mean, it's interesting, and I do understand why, although, you know, I get hot-headed as well on Twitter, but there's some people on Twitter absolutely furious about the level of policing or safety or whatever, like just the escalation of crime. And then other people immediately going to the far right are just using this as an excuse. They just want to riot. They don't really care about dead kids. Well, I mean, I don't know how the far right seem to be able to organise awfully quickly if it is just an opportunistic.
Yeah, two things can be wrong at the same time, and that's exactly what's happening here, isn't it? I mean, we've covered the main part.
Oh, it's certainly not right that they riot. I should say that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but they should be able to spot that it's wrong that they riot because the wrong person was named.
Yeah.
And so now when you think you know who it is, and we're not going to say the rumours that are going around online, but whatever your presumption is, even if your presumption is later proved to be correct, back when it was just a presumption, it was not a fact. Stop pretending because you're so angry, your opinion somehow graduates to be a fact.
I see that an awful lot as well. I think there was a second man arrested on his way, it seems, to the vigil with a knife. Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't hear about that.
This was, I mean, there are photographs of this, and again, there definitely are photographs of police arresting him, and he definitely has a knife, and he seems to be of Muslim origin or Muslim faith.
Yeah,
so I think that is the point at which a certain amount of him. But what it is, obviously, as you're saying, is it's not coming in a vacuum, is it? It's coming after months, essentially, in which people have felt that there is a sort of very hands-off policing attitude towards everything from the marches in central London to, you know...
But this is one of those things about ends justifying means. It doesn't just because your end, you believe that goal so much that you don't mind being wrong on the way to it. No, like, I saw people online were saying, because this, the person is 17. Straight away, people were saying, I don't believe he's 17. They're just saying that so they don't have to name him. What have you done now? You don't know a thing, and now you've made it even worse somehow.
But what that does tell you is what a lot of people are concerned about, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how concerned they are, they still don't know what they're talking about.
It's of interest. It should be of interest to Keir Starmer that when he turned up today, he was heckled and he was asked how many more and so on and so on.
And that isn't necessarily Starmer's. In fact, it's not Starmer's fault. He's not been in nearly long enough. It's the effect of years. But it is a means of taking the temperature, isn't it? It's a symptom of a deep sense of a lack of confidence, a lack of confidence that the police are playing a straight bat here.
Yeah, I still don't have a lot of sympathy for it. Do you know, one of the things that really stands out is one officer suffered a suspected broken nose. When was the last time we said that out loud on this show? And that story was exactly the opposite. The airport. You know, so all of a sudden, people who are now rioting don't care about police getting broken noses, but I bet they did a couple of days ago when it was that version of the story.
Yeah. Well, that's a fair point. OK, Steve, we have pensioners also in the crosshairs now, according to the Telegraph. Let them eat cake, I suppose.
Yeah. The pensioners...
They like cake, don't they?
They could get a lot of it for the £1,260 a year they're going to lose under Labour, says the Telegraph. There's some Telegraph bias in here as well, because what have Labour done to cost £1,260? Well, they scrapped the winter fuel allowance, 300 quid a year. The 960 comes from fiscal drag, basically, by pensioners paying tax, not changing the strata at which the tax kicks in. There's your 960 quid. Who came up with the idea of freezing these tax levels. I don't know, Jeremy Hunt, let's see what Jeremy Hunt has to say about this.
Yeah.
Former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt warned that millions of retirees are on track to be hit with a retirement tax. It's a shame he couldn't have done something about it, say, a few weeks ago.
In 2019, Rachel Reeves tweeted, which has been circulating again today, that it was appalling what the Tories were planning to do to the...
Yes.
You know,
I
the hypocrisy is equal and opposite on both sides. But there's no point in getting into government and then complaining when the opposition oppose what you're doing or draw attention to the fact that you're...
Come on, it's genius. Do you not think, though, that literally this is them continuing a Tory policy and getting
which they
flack for it.
criticised, which they attempted to get into government because they found was unacceptable.
And at most... Well, at the moment, they're getting around it by going, look, they're not going to do anything that they can't fiscally show all the maths on, which is a great excuse. But, you know, right now, in week 4 or 5 or something, you can't
I don't blame
pick
them
up on.
particularly. And I think a lot of people actually in the country probably do recognise that treating pensioners as a single demographic is just not realistic. A lot of them are very wealthy, they own property, a lot of them have savings, they have investments, they have pensions apart from the state pension. A lot of them are kind of doing OK compared to
I was surprised
kids
how
struggling to get
few
there.
are able to take these benefits. I thought it's like a small percentage, and I thought there'd be more people than that.
And it's not touching the really elderly, right? I think over 80 or something all get it. Or is that right?
Although there was a reduction, because they lose out a certain amount of money.
OK.
But on this, you're right, the rich ones, why should I as a taxpayer fund their fuel? And the only thing to push back against my own point is a lot of pensioners don't realise they could be in receipt of benefits and haven't filled in the forms. That needs to be sorted out.
I think the main thing would be to get them out of the houses and into some sort of collective area where they could be warmed, you know, more efficiently during the day. Weatherspoons is always good. Finally, some good news, Cressida. In the Mirror, a proper jail term for a proper wrong-un.
Islamist hate preacher Anjem Choudhury jailed for life on terror charges. So he's been given a life sentence. He's currently 57, so this really probably does mean life for him.
What do you mean? I'm 59. What are you saying?
Don't commit any terror offences,
Don't
Simon.
push your luck now.
That's what I'm suggesting. But the problem is he's going now into the UK prison system, and he is, you know, in his own words, it was a badge of honour, a medal on his chest when he was called the #1 radicaliser in the UK. He made this speech in 2022. So what do you think he's going to do inside?
Inside?
I mean,
it's a considerable concern, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, this...
What would you have done?
Well, I wondered whether we could have a special wing for people who've committed similar offences. Is that
I think maybe
possible?
I don't know, inject his tongue with something that just swells it up slightly to make him sound ridiculous when he tries to preach. Just constantly pub helium it.
That's the one, isn't it? Yeah. Well, we could take this as a win, though. I mean, look, this is...
Yes.
The system sometimes works, and this is not being soft on crime if someone's getting 28 years.
But there are some people you just... Not only do you want them to see them punished, but you also resent the cost of the punishment as well. And apart from... I agree with Cressida. I don't know what it's like inside a jail. I've never literally physically been inside one. But clearly it's not like porridge anymore, is it? Clearly people do come out of them politically and religiously radicalised now. They do have to worry about that. I don't know whether that is something that they have measures that they can take. Do you know anything about how...
Did you not see that episode of Porridge where he got radicalised?
Yeah.
At the end? Did you not see that one? Godber, was it Godber in that? Is it?
Godber, peace be upon him. Wednesday's Guardian next, Steve, and they are getting all twitchy about Donald Trump's innocent 1,000-year Reich jokes.
So Donald Trump repeats controversial "you won't have to vote anymore" claim. So previously in this election, the Democrats have been saying if Trump wins, that'll be the end of democracy. So what have they done? he decides to say to Christian events, get out there and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years. You know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. But then, I mean, that could mean anything. Also previously, Donald Trump said on day one he'd be a dictator, and clearly that's a joke. So with this one, he means...
I think just steel man it. I think what he's saying is, and I do think it is slightly odd and possibly like, you know, a needless creates a needless bit of flank. I think what he's saying is that there is a large constituency of Christians who don't get involved in politics for some reason.
He is saying that.
And he's saying, just give me your vote this one time. I'm not asking you to change the habit of a lifetime for the rest of your lifetime. He's only got 1 term left. He's had 1 term.
Well,
so just come out and do it, and I will change. I think what he's kind of implying is that I will recorrect America's course, which has been so deviant from that which he believes a Christian
He
would
should get a
conceivably want
slogan
to see,
for that.
that they'll be back on course. Do you know what I mean? And then, yeah, not so much make America great again as make America, you know, righteous again, something of that kind.
Just
because I suppose he's
Marvelous.
basically saying, you know, all of the wilder extremes and fringes of woke behaviour, which a Christian might find worrying.
It's going to reset the system for them so they can get involved. And I think he sounds like he's in the smoking area of a nightclub at this point. Frankly, we'll have such love. He just sounds... I don't know, it's very funny.
It is remarkable, isn't it? There's been this, I mean, only a fortnight ago, the assassination attempt, and everyone was like, well, that's it, Trump's won it. And then Biden disappears, and Kamala come and get Kamala bump, or hump, as I prefer. But that's foolishness. But the... that already feels like it's draining away, and it feels like a real clown car race now, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what is going to happen
race
next?
that we had the last few months.
Well, yeah, I can't. When was the last slick one? Was it Obama Romney or something like that? The last sort of between two grown-ups who were plausible, could have been played by actors. I mean, who would you even cast? Oh my goodness, Cressida. The Telegraph, on the other hand, they have Kamala pulling on her humps, as I say. I've used that joke already. But some of her more blatantly Maoist policy positions, she's rowing back on a little bit.
She certainly is. Kamala Harris reverses Liberal positions as Republicans launch attack ads. So she's reversing her stance on fracking, border control, healthcare and policing. So she's...
Yeah, they're all pretty big.
Yeah, they've called her out. They've called her failed, weak, dangerously liberal. And she's now making moves saying that she's going to change her ways.
One of those ways was medical care as soon as you cross the border, right? No undocumented, no human is illegal and should be denied medical care.
That sounds like one of hers.
That was one of hers. What was the other one you said?
The topics that she's talking about are fracking, border control, healthcare, and policing. She was
policing,
one of these.
That's right. She was defund the police.
More or less,
it's a great illusion that having more police officers on the street reduces crime. She said that.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, maybe I don't know.
Isn't this a case of them finally working out that if you get the policies that might win you an election, you might win the election?
It might do.
Like someone's had an idea here.
This is always the debate. Is it, do you set out your stand and say that's what I am and that's what I do, vote for me or not, or do you kind of
shouldn't you have as your candidate somebody whose policies have previously aligned with those which would win you an election, rather than choose a candidate and then go right now you now have to have these policies because you're an actual candidate, whereas before you were just a...
The candidate selection has been very much based on someone nearly being dead. This has not been the way candidate selection's meant to work, is it? So yeah, they've not picked the best one.
Gerald Ford had it, didn't he? Did you see that clip?
No.
In 1988, long after he'd been president himself, he was asked by a schoolgirl, he was talking to a school, you know, as they do, will there be a woman president in my lifetime? And he said, I think there will be, but what will happen is she'll be a vice president and then the president will die.
So close.
It was close enough. That's part 2 done, but coming up, Germany's refugee woes and why you shouldn't expect to see novels about that winning any prizes. See you in a couple of minutes.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. The high temperatures, the high humidity will continue across the southern parts through the next few days, and that brings the risk of some thunderstorms. High pressure is generally in control, leading to a lot of fine and settled weather, but there is a weak front across northern parts of Scotland, and here it is a bit fresher than elsewhere. But as we go through the night, do watch out for some hefty showers pushing into southern parts of England. Some of these could have the odd bit of thunder mixed in as well, and there may be a few pockets of mist and fog, but across southern parts it's really going to be a warm and sticky night. Temperatures really holding up. A much fresher story further north. In fact, in some of the rural spots, the sheltered glens of Scotland, we could fall as low as 4 or 5 Celsius. So a bit of a fresher, chilly start across Scotland first thing, and that front I mentioned earlier bringing some outbreaks of rain to the Northern Isles. Otherwise, it's a dry, bright and sunny story for many. A bit more cloud perhaps across parts of Northern Ireland and some parts of northern England. A bit of a grey start here, but elsewhere across much of England and Wales, any mist and fog patches that do develop overnight will quickly be burnt away by the sun, and there will be plenty of sunshine and plenty of blue skies. That being said, we are expecting a few more showers to develop as we go into the afternoon, particularly across southern southeastern parts, and these showers could be fairly intense. Some heavy downpours, some frequent lightning, some thunder and hail, all could lead to some issues. The temperatures are still going to be on the high side, just about getting into the low 30s across the south. Fresher than this, though, further north, similar to today. High teens, low 20s, so feeling warm enough in any sunshine. Into Thursday, and the heavy thunderstorms are going to be a bit more widespread. Across much of England and Wales, there is the risk of some thundery downpours. Meanwhile, across Scotland and Northern Ireland, a few showers are possible, and it is going to be a little bit cloudy at times. Friday's looking like it will be a bit drier for many before something fresher and wetter by the weekend. Bye-bye.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners. So, Steve, we're getting straight into Wednesday's Mail, where Merkel's legacy sounds both horrifying and horrifyingly familiar.
Yeah, their headline is Children Radicalised in Mosques, 11-year-olds with Knives, Surging Crime Rate, the Damning Verdict of German Child Refugee Charity. Whew, phew, because for a minute there I thought it was a Brighton story and it's going to get all good. So this Child Refugee charity in Germany, well, they've been saying that the children are being radicalised in mosques, joining gangs, roaming the streets. And we all know this is a clip that some people will end up putting on the internet and saying it's a bit anti-Islamic. So let's do this version of it, right? To the left, I'll address these points. So the guy, this Wolfgang Buscher, it's going to be my favourite fake name when I need to pick it, so that youngsters are being lost to the gangs, and for the ones that they deal with, there's very few Muslim girls over the age of 13 in education. All right, left. So surely one thing that you want is women to have the right to have education. Yes, you can say that you should respect people's traditions, but not when if it's in your nation.
So is it, sorry, to be clear, is it the girls' parents that are preventing them from going to school, you think, rather than German authorities not?
Yeah, it's not the German authorities. It is that they, in fact, the line from Wolfgang Buscher, great name. I was told that parents are afraid that our Western values could spread to the young girls. That's the kind of thing that we of the left should think, well, no, we like education in women.
But he's agreeing with you, Wolfgang, right?
Yeah.
He's the head of a pro-refugee charity that tries to help them assimilate and integrate, but he doesn't feel that...
That's what I mean.
And he's saying...
So is he saying that the Muslim refugee, the parents, or maybe the community leaders or whatever, you know, are preventing this rather than a lack of funds from the...
Yeah, the decision of the parents. Yeah. And it's just that the headline, and maybe because it's Daily Mail, looks like it could immediately trigger the you're being anti-Islamic.
We need to shut it down.
You feel that you find the other angles, and this is about fairness. This is the kind of thing you should fight for, education in women. Now, obviously, there are other angles within this. No one really likes the idea of 11-year-old...
But this is the concern, is it not, with mass immigration, when you get a certain critical mass that therefore doesn't feel the need it has to adapt to its new countries?
I believe so. I mean, I'm listening to Douglas Murray on this. That's where I get this from. But that's the argument, isn't it? That you can't integrate very successfully if it's a massive number of people.
It's like pouring all the flour into the sauce at once, and it just sits there. And that's perhaps not. But you know what I mean? It doesn't like you can't blend in enough. You know. Yeah. You need a proper NutriBullet to.
Well, there's also. I mean, I would say this, but there's also this issue that young adolescent men are looking for something, and if you don't have sort of some kind of competent male leadership,
table tennis.
Well, that would do, possibly. I don't know. But we know that Nigel Farage is cleaning up on TikTok at the moment, don't we, with young men, because he's kind of competent and masculine or whatever. He's the latest, well, something like that.
No, good for him.
And these guys, they've probably got a lot to offer, you know, that appeals to young men. If they're masculine, they're strong.
And they've also... Probably, I don't know, I'm kind of projecting, but I would imagine they have a sense of adventure because they've crossed half the, the world to get there, and they probably feel a little bit more grown up than for their age than, you know, domesticated house cats. Yeah, I agree with all of that. Anyway, books and booker news now, Cressida, and in good news, in my view, in Wednesday's Telegraph, for those of us weary of hectoring in novels.
Booker Prize shouldn't reward fiction for simply tackling issues, says Chair of Judges.
Good for him.
Great point. Hear, hear. So this is Edmund de Waal, I don't know, and his panel have just announced 13-strong list for the annual Literary Award. And they're not rewarding people for just dealing with really important issues.
Which the last year's winner was, funny enough, Prophet Song, which we did for our book group, and it was just absurd. It was absolutely infuriating.
Well, according to this says it's about a far-right party taking control of Ireland and turning the country into a dystopian nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds fun,
I mean, it was
doesn't
just done in a very obvious, like, kind of, you know, shortwave radio. Return to your homes, you know. It was like... and before you know it, this Irish mother is in the middle of the Irish Sea paddling furiously for Liverpool and freedom, you know. No explanation for how Ireland, which is clearly drifting further and further to the left politically, even, you know, in the teeth of opposition from it.
As illustrated by the novel, just not in the novel.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's mad. But yeah, I mean, I think the publishing industry has, even by, you know, all the standards of the various institutions and so on, become absolutely captured by a singular political ideology, and consequently there aren't people there who are kind of going, I'm not sure this is that great. I think it just maybe, you know, satisfies your...
Yeah. Well, just to balance, a couple of things. I'd say de Waal because of Van der Waals force, which is my favourite electrostatic force. But anyway, that gives away the rest of my hand.
He's an artist, and he wrote the Hair with the Amber Eyes, I think, or something like that.
No, the Van der Waals force is the reason that geckos can stick to things.
Oh, OK,
pushes
sorry.
The electron cloud gets slightly moved.
It's not the Van der Graaf generator with the hair goes up. It doesn't work on us.
A lot of those names, does that just on your back? But I would say let the achingly middle-class people have their little prizes. If they want to dish out a prize for being just, like, really important, let them do it.
But they don't. He's still achingly middle-class, but he actually wants a decent book to read. I think it's probably a good sign.
About selling books, isn't
it? I mean, this is the chairman of the committee. This is not like some Daily Mail journalist who's kind of going, the Booker Prize has been taken over. This is the chairman of the committee who is saying that this needs...
Everyone else who cares about this prize, achingly middle class, who want to show off that they've read this book that really says important things, let them have it. There's no one from my hometown who's ever said I would have got out of those pits if I could have.
Do you not think, though, it's interesting? I mean, maybe you don't read fiction. Do you read mainly non-fiction and science books?
All science.
Also captured. Scientific American captured. Nature captured. All of these. All of your.
I'm currently
towards
reading...
a hermeneutics of quantum gravity.
Yeah, it was that. It's captured.
Now, this is the cycle turning. Talking of captured, the Mail says Marvel movies have rediscovered camp. It sounds like watching The Professionals, this latest one.
Yeah. So Deadpool and Wolverine's constant gay jokes leave Marvel fans completely divided. So the internet has been upset by these jokes. I didn't realise this was going to be on the show because I've not seen the film yet, but I'm going to watch it. I would have seen it today.
I think it looks good, yeah.
But also, I love all the MCU stuff. This would have made it tax deductible. Oh, I could have watched it today. But so technically, it's MCU, kind of, but it's because Fox and MCU now are all under Disney, so all these characters are allowed to be in the same films. But they were upset
by... Was Deadpool not MCU originally, then?
He must have been Fox because of all the references to X-Men. So basically, Deadpool in the previous two films had other X-Men in there.
OK.
And the X-Men were owned by Fox.
Oh, because Wolverine is an X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Deadpool was as well.
Would have...
Isn't Deadpool on his... I watched the trailer today because I've never seen a Wolverine in my life.
No.
And there wasn't any gay jokes in that.
All it is...
the gay jokes in the trailer.
Deadpool is kind of whistles admiringly when he sees Wolverine's abdominal...
Well, so it says here, but
so he makes jokes about wanting to sleep with Wolverine, but then this is the character. He wants to sleep with everything. In the second one, he moves in with that blind grandmother and makes some lovely jokes about what he'd like to do with her.
It is very, very funny, and it is very dark. Yeah. Whereas Wolverine is a great person to play that against because he is extraordinarily terse and unamused by things, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the complaint in here is that there's too much of it and it's monotone. And
somebody misuses POV, though. Go on.
Somebody misuses
POV.
Right, OK. They're talking about... I don't know who said this. I think this is from The Guardian. I hate how his queerness is only ever played as a joke and never once sincerely. And that sort of makes me think, this is end of days. I mean...
Oh, my God. Deadpool is a real exploration of...
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, there's nothing sincere in any of the films. Clearly, we've not seen the first
He's not queer, he's polyamorous, isn't he?
Pansexual.
Pansexual.
Well,
Salvador Dali had a word for it, the polymorphous perversity, I think, wanting to have sex with everything. Yeah, I think that may have been from Freud, in fact, but it was in my book of Dali I first came across it. I used to sit there and ask my dad what certain words meant.
That'd be awkward, wouldn't it?
Picture of a young virgin auto-sodomised on the horns of her own chastity. That was the name of one of his paintings, and I remember asking my dad what that meant.
They don't do that in the MCU, do they?
Do you think this might be a case of the confirmation bias? Because you sometimes... people don't notice if you talk about your wife, but if you were talking about your husband, they might. And I don't know, I mean...
The character, by being pansexual, should be allowed to make these jokes. That's the rule, isn't it? I thought that was the rule.
Yeah, I agree with you, absolutely.
Yeah.
It could still be
Wolverine,
tedious.
if Wolverine was just, like, camping it up and going, oh, get you, or something, that might be a bit annoying.
Shining his claws, just painting the ends of them.
It's going to take me ages to heal. The Independent now, Steve. Accusations of Islamophobia in the House of the House of Lords.
Peter accused of Islamophobia after claiming radicals will take us over through the power of the womb. This is an article, by the way, written by Nadine White, race correspondent, which used to be John McCurrick's old job. So this is Lord Pearson of Rannoch made these comments. He said that Sharia allows Muslim men to have 4 wives at a time, most of whom are having at least 2 children. So Muslim population is growing 10 times faster than our national average. I think I would be doing a disservice if I didn't obsess about the maths of this, just for a second.
I was going to say, this isn't a geometric progression, is it?
No, this is... Well, it should be, because, look, at the very least, that's us having 2 per generation, them having 4, that's an 8 times multiple, is 4 times multiple. But actually, every generation gives you 2 to the power of n, whereas for them it's 8 to the power of n. 8 is 2 to the power of 3, so you can just add the powers. So it's 2 to the power of 3n minus or divide by 2 to the power of n.
Sooner or later, they're going to run out of food.
It's 2 to the power of 2n, and there is no integer value of n that makes that equal to 10. I say to you, Lord, whatever your name is, you are wrong about the maths.
I mean, he is quite an interesting character. He was, I think, in the 80s, he worked closely with Solzhenitsyn, maybe even in the 70s, and the dissidents within Soviet Russia. You know, he was quite heroic in freeing Soviet Russia. Then he became the leader of UKIP briefly, and then did a terrible job, recognised that he wasn't cut out for it and left. But he's sort of ping-ponged a little bit between really quite, brave and righteous causes and slightly erratic causes as well.
And now he's a pro-natalist.
Yeah, well, now he is, I think, believed to be sort of part of some quite sort of underground and sort of hardcore anti-Islamic positions. But
He showed a choice film, and it wasn't one with Wolverine in it.
That's all the time we have for that section. That's the end of part 3. Coming up, Tubby King Jong-un and other dodgy kids' names. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
It was also announced that the Prince of Wales is set to star in a new 2-part documentary on ITV covering his mission to try and eradicate homelessness.
Well, let's talk about this and much, much more with Angela Levin, royal biographer, who joins us in the studio. I'm glad to hear that this documentary's been made, Angela, because I worried that he made this big announcement about homelessness, and I thought, goodness me, here is somebody who could maybe do something about this. And then it's all seemed to have gone quiet.
He's been very busy with it, actually. He's gone all over the country to see different areas and how they have been, and to try and change people's attitude to homelessness, that they're people who need help and want to get back into a normal life, and he's there to do it. I mean, we mustn't forget that in, I think it was 2009, he slept out in the street to see for himself what it was like, and he also helped people who are selling the magazine.
Big Issue, no?
Yes, The Big Issue. And he's worked all day long with the same man twice now. So I think he was actually just covering the basic about what it was like for him and how he can now help other people. He and Catherine are putting £3 million straight away into that, and it's going to
Where
be
does that money come from?
their own foundation, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not taking it from our tax or anybody else's, you know, and there will be a lot more, and he's been getting the money to do this, and I think it's he wants to do this so badly because of his mother. You know, she took them to see people who were homeless.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and kicking off with the Daily Star, making a welcome appearance now, Cressida, a story about Rocket Man being a bit of a salad dodger, ironically enough. There we are. That was my joke of the night.
Excellent. Tubby, 22 stone Kim Jong-un. North Koreans aren't known for their height. Health concerns as daughter 10. No, they're shorter than South Koreans. Like, same genetics, different diet.
Well, that's lack of nutrition, of course, I think, isn't it? Which he's probably been unusually
They're genetically the same, but one nation is starving, although I understand he's had access to the pizza. So the Dumpy Despot is rumoured to enjoy cooking.
Dumpy Despot, that sounds like that's coming out of you now.
Well, it's coming from my heart. I've watched a lot of Yumney Park's YouTube channel, and I haven't got a good word to say about this man. So anyway, they're priming his daughter to step in.
Is she the one that went on Rogan and stuff and says, this is what it's like?
Yumney Park is a North Korean defector, not Kim Jong-un's daughter.
No, I know the one you mean. I think I've seen her,
Yeah, fascinating story. She's somebody who escaped all this and eventually, it took 8 years, got to China and then South Korea, now she's American.
She's the kind of current version of that old in Soviet Russia type of, you have no idea that
she's like the Solzhenitsyn of North Korea. Anyway, he's fat and he's not going to... there's no body positivity.
So they're grooming his daughter?
Well, they're campaigning, they're referring to her as the respected as opposed to the beloved, which signifies that... But not everybody knows, that's a silly thing to say, the sister, Sol Song, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, she's got resting, I'm going to run the country one day face. Anything like him. And I reckon she's probably pulling the strings.
But some of them, family members have been assassinated for less, haven't they?
Oh, yeah.
There were a couple, wasn't one killed in Hong Kong airport or something?
Yeah, with the chemical wiped across his face,
Steve, nominative determinism meets physiognomy in the Mail.
Yeah, be careful what you name your child. People's faces evolved to match their name, a terrible study claims. And the reason it's a terrible... So it sets out the story. You've got two options. Either you give someone a name and their face grows to match it, or the other presumption is that parents are really good at spotting a name early doors. They look at a baby's face and give it a name that suits it, and therefore it's game over. And they wonder, well, how can we test this? Well, not like this. What they did was they asked people if they can guess people's names, and we're less good at guessing baby names than we are adult names. And they say, well, that means the face must be less suited to the name as a baby.
Is that really the source of the...
Yeah. Whereas actually what that means is when you've been in a society, like at school, there are about 5 other Steves in the class. You just get used to what Steves look like, I guess, whereas
it's like
babies
astrology,
are fresh.
Isn't it? I think there's... I've said this, we have a 17 and a 20-year-old, in fact, he'll be 17 tomorrow, Edward, and happy birthday. And we've discussed with them that they're happy enough with their names, but we've both felt it would have been fine if we'd named them until they were 12 and then they get to choose.
That's not the right age. I think it's a miracle I don't have a fairy tattoo.
Really?
Yeah. 25, 35.
25 you choose.
Yeah, way
Maybe you change
later.
every 10 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, overall. We can squeeze one more in.
Okay.
The Sun now, a story of anxious Android users still struggling vainly to escape the web. Resistance is futile.
Panicked Android owners fear new Google Add Me AI feature that puts you in group photos when you weren't even there. What? So this is... My dad used to make jokes about how the husband, the groom, always has to stand on the end of the photos and the mother-in-law can snip it off later. This is the reverse of that. Yeah. He's a fan of yours.
Yeah.
So this is the reverse. This is some amazing technology where you can... If you weren't able to make it, you could put yourself in.
Or like when they have those old-fashioned sweeping panorama shots, like for massive group photos, like the whole year of your school.
Yeah.
And you can stand at one end and then run around to the back and be in it twice.
You just say this is utterly pointless, get over yourself. Just because you're not in a photo, I've got to Photoshop myself in. No, you weren't there. If you're not there, just back off. It's not all about you. Although it is a perfect excuse when you could say, no, it's been altered. And ...
To be honest, it's probably an advertising puff for the feature, isn't it? Masquerading as an alarmist piece, which is how you get in the news. So, one last story, very, very quickly. Gravel.
Gravel?
No, goldfish.
Goldfish.
Bite the dust.
3-second goldfish memory is a myth. Pets can recall the paths they swam on a year ago, scientists says. Well, we all know goldfish don't live for over a year, so how's that possible? I think it's their gormless faces. Everybody thinks they can't remember anything.
That's it.
Yeah.
The show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Wednesday's front pages. The very sad news dominates Daily Mail. Faces of the innocent little Taylor Swift fans killed in cold blood by a despicable human being. The Guardian, you can't help but cry. Hundreds pay tribute to stabbing victims. The Telegraph, violence erupts over child killings. The iNews, no words can describe our devastation. Metro, our little innocence. And finally, the Daily Star, attack of bloodthirsty Dracula flies. Those were your front pages. That's all we have time for. My thanks to guests Cressida Wetton and Steve N. Allen. We're back at 11 p.m. with Leo Kirsch, Josh Howie and Lewis Schaefer. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Otherwise, thank you for your company. I'll see you again in September. Good night.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. The high temperatures, the high humidity will continue across the southern parts through the next few days, and that brings the risk of some thunderstorms. High pressure is generally in control, leading to a lot of fine and settled weather, but there is a weak front across northern parts of Scotland, and here it is a bit fresher than elsewhere. But as we go through the night, do watch out for some hefty showers pushing into southern parts of England. Some of these could have the odd bit of thunder mixed in as well, and there may be a few pockets of mist and fog, but across southern parts it's really going to be a warm and sticky night. Temperatures really holding up. A much fresher story further north. In fact, in some of the rural spots, the sheltered glens of Scotland, we could fall as low as 4 or 5 Celsius. So a bit of a fresher, chilly start across Scotland first thing, and that front I mentioned earlier bringing some outbreaks of rain to the Northern Isles. Otherwise, it's a dry, bright and sunny story for many. A bit more cloud perhaps across parts of Northern Ireland and some parts of northern England. A bit of a grey start here, but elsewhere across much of England and Wales, any mist and fog patches that do develop overnight will quickly be burnt away by the sun, and there will be plenty of sunshine and plenty of blue skies. That being said, we are expecting a few more showers to develop as we go into the afternoon, particularly across southern southeastern parts, and these showers could be fairly intense. Some heavy downpours, some frequent lightning, some thunder and hail all could lead to some issues. The temperatures are still going to be on the high side, just about getting into the low 30s across the south. Fresher than this, though, further north, similar to today. High teens, low 20s, so feeling warm enough in any sunshine. Into Thursday, and the heavy thunderstorms are going to be a bit more widespread. Across much of England and Wales, there is the risk of some thundery downpours. Meanwhile, across Scotland and Northern Ireland, a few showers are possible, and it is going to be a little bit cloudy at times. Friday's looking like it will be a bit drier for many before something fresher and wetter by the weekend. Bye-bye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
really could become the next big Great British Giveaway winner, with your chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Listen to what some of our previous winners have to say about winning big with us.
On the day that I got the money in the bank account, everything just seemed a lot sunnier.
But I do have something to spend it on. Just go for it. It's an absolute must. Thank you, GB News.
Amazing feeling to win.
For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Go and get another glass of that bubbly, you've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees.